Well, all right. Bucs survive and beat the New Orleans Saints here in what was a bizarre game, a wild one, and ultimately a very big win for Tampa Bay to be able to beat the New Orleans Saints in kind of a must-win situation. You look at Tampa Bay's schedule, we'll get into this later, but very tough these next 4 weeks. Being 3-3 in that stretch was almost just it couldn't happen, especially when you factor in just how banged up this New Orleans Saints team is. Chris Olave got hit in the head in kind of a fluky play where he and McCollum both kind of went down for contact at the same time, helmet to helmet. It was actually part of why Olave went down a little more is because he lost the football, on a fumble, then kind of went down, and it was just an unfortunate play. He gets injured for the game. You look at the Saints, no Derek Carr, they have plenty of other injuries on top of this. You're thinking, okay, I mean, this should be easy for Tampa Bay, and at first it was. 17-0. They get a long Antoine Winfield fumble recovery touchdown. Tyke Smith knocked the ball out a couple of times. Only one counted, but that was the one that counted. They get a big touchdown, up 17-0. And then in a 5-minute stretch, the Saints managed to score multiple times. They score 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals and are able to take the lead. Tampa Bay scores a touchdown right back, and then the Saints score a touchdown right back. But that was it. Tampa Bay was able to settle down in the second half and play dominant football from that point forward. Again, where do we begin? I guess let's start with Todd Bowles. I think this is a good way to start. Who I had some real frustrations with in last week's loss against the Falcons, and real frustrations in the first half of this one as well. I think because there are so many injuries in the secondary, although not that many, but Jamel Dean being down, he means a lot, whether you think he's great or not so great. Covering a team's number one receiver is always going to be kind of a thankless job. I think he does a pretty good job at it. And, him going down, now everyone has to step up. I think that for Bowles, he was trying to protect some of these young corners getting thrown into the mix, being starters, and not force them to have to, play man coverage, play these one-on-ones. But the issue was, so they're playing this zone coverage, and the Saints were just all over it. They were running these schemes that were getting guys wide open. The Bucs were blowing coverages. Like, they just weren't that good at it. And I think Todd Bowles eventually just said, well, let's start blitzing and do that. And that's what he did in the second half. And it worked out so much better. This team was able to cover these good Saints receivers, even when there wasn't great opportunities sometimes. It's just tougher, like Spencer Rattler is now under pressure, missing throws. You had the great Zion McCollum interception that was against a blitz. I think that was a great adjustment by Bowles and was, probably the difference in this game. He did not, for Bowles, for all the faults he has, one of the things I've always liked about him is that when he's doing something that isn't working, he's usually willing to change and do something else. That's what he did here. Doesn't continue to try to run through a wall if he can't break it down. He looks for another way. That's what he did here. So I think that's the first credit I have to give. I'm also going to give a shout out to Zion McCollum, who did get beat a couple times, but again, that interception was something else, wasn't it? Being able to go up and make that play. Again, I'm very, very happy with this Zion McCollum that we have seen. It sucks that Dean is down now because, again, the depth thing is still an issue, and it was still an issue in this game. But that's very, very cool to see him step up and play as well as he had. Defense able to, again, outside of that horrible stretch of 5 minutes, which wasn't all the defense's fault. I mean, there was a punt return touchdown in there, right? But being able to hold strong after that, I thought. Listen, we can talk about the Saints for a second. I thought the Saints played well in this game. I don't think the Saints are going to be that disappointed with their performance, especially Spencer Rattler, who definitely cooled off once they started blitzing him. Definitely didn't have quite the day that maybe you were hoping for in the second half if you're a Saints fan, but a really strong first half. But ultimately for New Orleans, I mean, they're a banged up team. And this is a game that, I mean, you have to win. The Saints are only going to get better from here, you assume, only going to get healthier. You have to be able to make this a victory, and that's what they ultimately were able to do. We got to talk about the Buccaneers offense, which, listen, 3 interceptions in the first half for Baker Mayfield. Mayfield ends up with a stat line that would make Jameis Winston proud of 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but 2 of those were tip passes. Those are fluky. Got to give credit to the Saints for making them work, but those are fluky plays. Those aren't going to happen over and over again. You take those out of the equation. Still, 1 interception, which I kind of didn't even hate the first interception. Like, they said he misread the coverage. I think even if he read it right, you're trusting your guy. You're trusting Mike Evans one-on-one. I didn't hate it. It's a great defensive play by Adebo. What are you going to do? That's how I see it. I know that I'm different there than most. But, that's how I saw it. And then you had the, another interception, probably his worst play of the game, an interceptable pass in that weird, just awful, 2-minute drill at the end of the first half, which was just bad by Tampa Bay. That was horrible. Made a whole video on how bad that was. But other than that, I thought that this Buccaneers offense played very well. I think we got to talk about the running game, which the Buccaneers seemingly never have a consistent running game so far. But, Sean Tucker ends the day with 135 rushing yards. A lot of that was he had kind of garbage time at the end. But still, the running game was working throughout. The running game wasn't just working at the end. And part of why I think they had that slow second quarter was because they kept having penalties on first down. They couldn't run the ball, and then they had to sort of throw, which was still, for the most part, working when it wasn't getting interceptions. But, still, I think that kind of hurt them a little bit. Got to talk about Chris Godwin as well, who was, again, magnificent in this one. 125 yards and a pair of touchdowns, including that one play where it was just like a little, flat route. Let's just gain a few yards. Godwin catches it and runs the rest of the way for a touchdown. That was incredible by Chris Godwin. A great job there. Mike Evans still doesn't feel healthy to me. He just doesn't. He had a couple big plays in the first quarter, and I'm thinking, okay, here we go. Mike Evans, another one of those days. They didn't even have Lattimore on Evans for most of this game. This wasn't like Lattimore owning Evans. Like most of Evans' snaps, Lattimore wasn't even on him. They weren't throwing to him for whatever reason. I don't think Evans is fully healthy here. But, so that's a little bit concerning, but still, it helps when you have multiple number one wide receivers, which Tampa Bay does. Chris Godwin, incredibly strong performance. What are some big takeaways here? So I think, one thing we have to bring up is the fact that this team did kind of have a meltdown. Again, they gave up 20 points in like a 5-minute stretch and gave up another touchdown right after that. That can't happen. And it happens against the Saints. It does. The Saints, especially in New Orleans, it gets so loud in there. There were times when Mayfield was really having to try to get his blocking assignment done and everything. But, it's still, that can't happen. There has to be, almost like, and I know it would be insane, but you almost wonder if Todd Bowles at a certain point should have just called a timeout like in basketball just to settle everyone down. I think getting to the locker room only down 3 ended up being kind of a big win because they were able to settle down in the second half and really play good football from there. And again, Todd Bowles, some really good adjustments, even with how frustrating some of the play calling was in the first half. So all in all, listen, you put up 50 points in the Superdome. You got to feel pretty good about that. Yes, the second quarter still happened. We can't pretend that didn't happen, but a lot of good, and I was really concerned when Mayfield was banged up. He's got to protect himself better. That's another thing that drives me crazy. Got to protect himself better, especially against a team like the Saints, who, listen, they're a physical team. Right? They're gonna deliver hits. You have to be more aware of that. And I get that you want the first down, but you're a $100 million guy. You can't be taking some of these hits. Some of them, I get it. Even that one, I kind of understood why he did it, but there's some unnecessary hits that I would like to see him slide. He's gonna just be this guy, and you love him for it, but it also can drive you crazy sometimes as well. So really good stuff. And shout out to Tyke Smith as well, who had the interception, but he was making plays, I thought, throughout this one. So the Buccaneers getting healthier, and then one step back with the Jamal Dean injury, but defense as a whole, once they figured out the right scheme, played perfect essentially. Offense, if they stop getting in their own way, played really well as well. It's hard to have too many critiques with it, even though I will be honest, during the second quarter, I was ready to pull my hair out. I was mad. This was going to be a very angry me had this game not turned around during this video, but happy to get the wins. Also, I said I was going to mention this and then forgot, so this is what I was going to mention, is that this is the next 4 games. The Ravens on Monday Night Football, the Falcons, the Chiefs, and the 49ers. These are, again, three teams that played in the conference championship game last year, and the Falcons, who have beaten the Bucs already this year. I mean, these are 4 games. They might be underdogs in all 4. I think they'll probably be favored against the Falcons, but being 4-2 just gives you a lot more wiggle room because it does get a lot easier after this stretch. So yeah, huge win here. So yeah, that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts on Bucs Saints. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.